John Chaika and the Leafs were cooking on day one of free agency.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, the daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. What a busy day in Leafland. The Toronto Maple Leafs made what? 5 signings, 2 trades, 7 new players coming to Toronto, or 6 new players, I guess, coming to Toronto. And man, what a busy day for John Chaika and company, huh, Dave?
It was, just in general. I don't know if we were talking about it on yesterday's show, just how I didn't expect much to happen. Me and my big mouth. Goddamn big mouth.
How did you not expect much to happen? Like, the Maple Leafs were supposedly in on everything. You just knew that they were going to open up the wallets. It's the first time in years that they had cap space, well over $20 million in cap space going into free agency. They pretty much spent it all, which is, maybe not the most ideal thing when you look at it. We can kind of get into all of the deals. We'll break them down one by one. But overall, they did what they wanted to do, right? John Chaika was asked after the draft, like, what are you going to be focusing on now? And he said, we're probably going to be focusing on building out the depth, and maybe we'll take, a couple bigger swings. Well, they took that big swing with Sergei Bobrovsky. They land the goaltender that they were aiming for. They got him, took a pretty penny, 3-year deal, $7 million AAV, but they got the goaltender who they believe can get them 40 to 50 starts and can be the 1A and be the starter ahead of Anthony Stolar. So they got the goalie that they wanted, and then they filled out the depth with guys like Jack Roslovic, Colton Sissons, Teddy Bluger, Zach McEwen, and then they made a late trade to bring in Nick Paul at the end of the day from the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, pretty well all of them. Maybe Roslovic plays up the lineup a little bit, but depth was clearly the emphasis on a day like today, and the Maple Leafs certainly are a lot deeper and a lot better in the bottom 6, and certainly at the goaltender position as well.
Yeah, this is the complete revamp of the bottom 6. And there were, we talked about players that they could be interested in. I think I mentioned Teddy Bluger, so I felt pretty good about that prediction coming to light.
I got Sissons. I brought up Colton Sissons.
You brought Colton Sissons. I put that one down. I'm like, I don't think so. I really see the fit. Not only did they sign him, they gave the guy over $4 million a season.
They paid him more than any other forward, like anyone not named Bobrovsky. Like, they gave Sissons the most money out of anyone besides him. So they feel like he could be a key cog, I guess, to this bottom 6. And I'll tell you why I thought that he was a good fit. Like, he's a right shot centerman who does have positional versatility, but he's an elite penalty killer, right? He's always been a really good penalty killer. And I think the Maple Leafs want a bit more out of their bottom 6, and they want guys who can kill penalties and take on those defensive responsibilities and take a little bit of load off of Matthews and Tavares, so they don't always have to be starting the defensive end. That was what I noticed out of pretty well all of the, bottom 6 additions that they made. Jack Roslovic, we'll get into that one. That may be a little, gift toss to Matthews, but you bring in Colton Sissons, Teddy Bluger, Nick Paul, bringing him in via trade from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, those make you much better defensively, and all 3 of those players can kill penalties for you. And that's, 2 areas that the Leafs certainly wanted to address this free agent period, and I think they checked those boxes.
Yeah, they made moves that we kind of expected to make. Then they made moves we did not expect them to make. Like, I'm trying to remember when exactly the Nick Paul trade came down.
That was like late in the day. It was like 4 p.m.
Yeah.
It was pretty late in the process. Like all these signings had already been made, and then bam, the Leafs made the big trade to land Nick Paul. Let me go through all of the signings and trades of the day. It started out with the Maple Leafs actually trading away Nick Robertson. That's how the day started. The Nick Robertson deal finally, after years, comes to fruition, and it's his old pal Kyle Dubas coming to save him. He gives up a 4th round pick for Nick Robertson, so at least get a 4th rounder for old Nicky Bobby. Again, they wanted guys who they can feel comfortable with in a defensive role, could kill penalties. Nick Robertson didn't really fit the bill as a bottom 6 player if that's going to be the identity of the Maple Leafs in their bottom 6. So it made sense that they wanted to move off of him, and they get a mid-round pick, which is pretty much what we expected all along out of Nick Robertson. So that was how the day started. And then you hear Colton Sissons signs a deal, 2 years, $4.25 million. Teddy Bluger signs 2 years, $2.5 million. Jack Roslovic, 2 years, $4 million. And then Sergei Bobrovsky was the big signing, the big fish of the day. He signs a 3-year deal, $7 million annually. And then late in the day, we hear Zach McEwen had also been brought in. Big tough guy. Brought in 2 years, $1.75 million AAV. And the Nick Paul trade, for those who didn't see, Nick Paul coming from Tampa Bay for Dennis Hildeby, a 3rd and a 4th round pick. So the Hildebeest is no more in Toronto. He now will be backing up Andre Vasilevsky. So the Maple Leafs in a couple of weeks ship out 2 goaltenders, not just one, but Joseph Woll and Dennis Hildeby. Sayonara. And they kind of fill the void by bringing in Sergei Bobrovsky to be the number 1 goaltender, at least this year. And they're hoping for 3 years out of the 38-year-old. Why don't we start there, though? Obviously, they made a number of signings, but to me, the Bobrovsky deal was the big one of the day. Like, he was the number 1 free agent on the market, according to TSN's top 50 list. And I think he's the one who clearly will have the most impact with the Maple Leafs as well. So why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back and we'll break down these signings one by one, starting with Sergei Bobrovsky. We'll do that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal could completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now, FanDuel has given fans another reason to stay locked into every match. With every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you got to do is turn on your token. That's what I love about about these tournaments. I tell you, turn on the match between 2 teams you don't normally follow. Suddenly, 1 goal can change everything. The tension builds quickly, and you're invested before you even know it. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you find your podcast. And you can also subscribe to the show on YouTube as well. Get that daily dose of Maple Leafs content. You're going to see a lot of other podcasters and radio shows take the summer off. They're going to be gone for the next couple of months. Not Dave and I. We're here daily throughout the summer. So make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Leafs podcast all summer long and get that daily dose of Maple Leafs content. And there was a lot of Maple Leaf content today. As we mentioned, the Toronto Maple Leafs made 5 free agent signings and 2 trades. So 7 transactions today for the Maple Leafs. John Chaika was busy at work, and the headliner was clearly Sergei Bobrovsky. 3 years, $7 million. He is the goalie of the now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What did you make of the deal now that it's officially official, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, just hearing people talk about Bobrovsky, the analysts and panelists talk about him, I can understand the appeal for him. Like, I know everyone looks at his age, but in a time where goaltenders aren't able to really play a lot of games, Sergei Bobrovsky's still been able to play a lot of games. He's again, I understand that his value, his numbers did not look very good last year. Unfortunately, not a lot of Florida Panthers looked very good last year.
This is true.
Not a lot of them did. And like up until a few weeks ago, the Panthers still really wanted Bobrovsky. Like they were keen on keeping him. But the thing that maybe made me not feel as gut wrenched about this move is we were talking about what a 6-year term this guy was looking for.
Well, yeah, it sounded like he wanted more term. Like he wanted that Brad Marchand treatment where clearly he wasn't going to play that long. And I don't know if you saw the Radko Gudas deal, but it sounds like Gudas got the same type of treatment there with that contract. Eetu Luostarinen signed a crazy long-term deal too. But they weren't willing to go there with Bobrovsky in net for whatever reason. And, that was kind of the concern was if he wants term, like, is Toronto going to do that? Are they going to, kind of give him the Chris Tanev-like contract where, it's a little too long, 5-6 years just to get it done? They didn't have to. They were able to cap it at 3 years, which is the most that I would have been comfortable with. To be like, if he would have went 4 or 5, I may have not liked it as much, but 3 years, I'm comfortable with it. Is it a little Marleau-like where 2 years could have been perfect? Yeah, I probably would have preferred, to keep it in that 2-year range, much like the rest of these contracts and what is clearly the window for Toronto. So, it sounds as though that third year was necessary from Bobrovsky's perspective to hammer it home and get it done. But we'll deal with year 3 when year 3 comes. Like I have a, I hopefully the next 2 seasons, Bobrovsky is solid in net, and Bobrovsky can deliver this team, some solid playoff performances and give them a chance to win and steal some games in the postseason, much like he did against Toronto for a couple of years there in Florida. So, look, you're getting a gamer, right? You're getting a guy who's battle tested, who's gone deep, 3 straight runs to the Stanley Cup Finals. He's won it twice, and he was an absolute beast in those runs.
Won a Vezina
Trophy winner. Like he's, like this is a huge get. Like this is very similar to when they went out and signed Ed Belfour back in 04. Like it's back 03, 04, whatever it was. This is very similar to that. Like Belfour was at the end of his career, at that point. And, they rolled the dice and it turned out pretty good. He still had some game left. So I think that fact that they were able to keep it to 3 or, 3 years basically, and not have to go more than that. 7 million AAV. I mean, that seems about right for a guy who you expect to play 50 games. Yeah, I don't have an issue with this deal. I really don't. I think that this is a deal that the Leafs, they're a team that wants to win and give them every chance to win in the next 2 years. He was the best goalie on the market who could do that for you, and they went and got it done. And now Bobrovsky's a Maple Leaf for the next couple of seasons.
Yep, him and Stolarz together. You kind of hope that tandem really kind of gets back to the level that a couple of years ago, that tandem was solid. Like Stolarz had his best. Well, before
Bobrovsky had his best season too that year, or one of his best season in Florida that year. A 237 goals against and a 915 save percentage. Played 58 games that year. That was this first season, the first time they won the cup, and that was with him and Stolarz splitting the net.
Yeah, and what it also does, bring in a Bobrovsky. Well, obviously Dennis Hildeby's gone, but Artur Yakhtiamov gets his chance to develop at the right pace.
Yeah,
we're not talking about needing Artur Yakhtiamov having to come up, right? That could eventually happen, right? he could be the guy. And also a really good mentor. Like he talked about, I can't remember who was writing about this, but Arkady Akhtiamov said like Bobrovsky is a guy he idolized.
Yeah.
Imagine like now you get him in the fold to be his mentor, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how Akhtiamov does fit with all this at some point, because you got Bobrovsky for 3 years, you got Stolar signed for 4. Although Stolar's isn't set in stone like Bobrovsky is.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if one day you do see the change of the guard there. But this sets up, I think your goaltending is set up now pretty good. Yes, it's old, but it's a goaltending position now. I feel like I see the path to 84 games with this tandem than I did with a Wool Stolar's tandem. They just couldn't roll the dice on those two.
I think you could feel comfortable for like 50-ish games. Maybe you scale it back a little bit for Bob's. He's going to be 38 by the time the season starts. Maybe you scale it back, 45 to 50 games for him, 30 games for Stolar's. And then maybe Hildeby ends up picking up, the slack there with 7 to 10 games if someone needs a breather or someone ends up with an injury for a couple of weeks and he needs to come and make some spot starts. The beauty part is he can clear through waivers without an issue, unlike Hildeby, right? So now you have 3 goalies that you can use at your disposal for the entire season without having to worry about waivers. And I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in another veteran goalie of some kind to be the backup to Akhtiamov in the minors, to be a guy, like, let's say an injury occurs to Stolar's, instead of having Akhtiamov up with the big club as the backup, not playing, they'll probably, bring in a veteran of some kind, I would think, who's got some NHL starts under his belt, but probably will, play majority of the season in, the AHL. But yeah, like they clearly identified Sergei Bobrovsky as the guy they wanted to give them the best opportunity to be competitive this year by upgrading in goal. And they absolutely did that. They upgraded in other positions as well, mainly in the depth. We'll take another break. We'll come back and we'll go over the rest of the deals that the Maple Leafs made today, day 1 of free agency. 4 more signings and 2 trades as well. We'll break them down next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Decagon. As companies grow, customer support gets a lot more complicated. More customers means more questions, more channels to manage, and higher expectations for fast, personalized service. That's usually when businesses start looking at AI, but most solutions either feel too generic or take forever to implement. That's where Decagon comes in. Decagon helps companies create personalized, concierge-style customer experiences with AI agents across chat, email, voice, and SMS. Their agents are available 24/7, feel natural to talk to, and can resolve customer requests on their own, helping businesses scale support without losing that personal touch. The best customer experiences don't happen by accident. Whether it's business or sports, people remember organizations that respond quickly, understand context, and make every interaction feel personal. One thing I've always noticed about the organizations that earn long-term loyalty is that they never make you feel like just another number. Whether it's a quick response or a personalized interaction with those experiences, they stick with people and keep them coming back. That's what stands out to me about Decagon. Their AI helps companies deliver that same personalized experience even as they scale. Ready to transform your customer support? Go to decagon.ai/lockedonnhl to get a personalized demo and see what Decagon can do for your team. That's decagon.ai/lockedonnhl. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you. We're reacting to day 1 of free agency. The Toronto Maple Leafs making 6 additions on the day, 5 via free agency, 1 a trade, which I didn't see coming, but I kind of like here. Nick Paul for Dennis Hildeby. So the Hildebeest goes out the door, and a couple of draft picks. Nick Paul fills a need. It's interesting because we saw Jack Roslovic, Colton Sissons, Teddy Bluger all get announced, Zach McEwen. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I still don't really see that 3C. Like, I think Sissons and Bluger would kind of be forced to play a role that they're not quite comfortable with. They're more fourth liners for me. And then all of a sudden, the Nick Paul trade comes through. I'm like, there's the 3C. And immediately that hole is filled by Nick Paul does it all from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I thought that was a really, really good addition for the Maple Leafs. And to use a position of strength, obviously they brought in Bobrovsky. Hildeby would have needed waivers and, in his media availability. Chaika basically said it's very difficult to carry 3 goaltenders. So that probably was not something that they were looking to do. So they use one of their goldies that they weren't going to use, and they bring in a useful piece and someone who's going to kind of slot in, be a third line matchup checking center, and give you good minutes on the penalty kill. I thought the Nick Paul trade was great for Toronto, and definitely it gives them that 3C upgrade that they were looking for.
Yeah, especially when you look at why Tampa has been such a good team. It's because when they brought it, now they went on their cup runs before Nick Paul came into the fold, but Nick Paul was a part of what they did. But if you ever watched the Tampa Bay Lightning play the Leafs, especially when they play the Leafs, Nick Paul has always been a pain in the rear to play against because he is massive. He's 6'4", 234 pounds, can play left wing center, can win draws, play on the penalty kill. And when he is put in a position to succeed, he can actually produce, right? 20 goal seasons, 40 plus points. Like that's actually what you're looking for as a guy in a 3C role. Like he did that while not playing high up in the lineup. So he knows what it takes, not only to be productive, but he knows what's expected of him in this Atlantic division. Like he's played in this division. He knows it very well. And really, like if you're the Leafs, you gave up Dennis Hildeby, who right now is your third goaltender. There was the potential that if you didn't want to carry 3, you're maybe putting a guy on waivers. Like you don't like it just seemed like they didn't want to have to juggle 3 goaltenders and having one like Hildeby in the press box. Yeah. So you got a 24-year-old goaltender who his value right now kind of took a bit of a hit because everyone sees Artyomov as the guy, the top goaltending prospect. Mm-hmm. You used a surplus to fill a position of need. Like I saw this trade. I sent you a text like almost like just what the like where did this come from? And like you listen to Chaika, he didn't expect this trade to happen because he didn't think a guy like Nick Paul was going to be available. And so I just think you add size, you add speed. It's the exact type of player that this bottom 6 needs. So yeah, I've always been a pretty big Nick Paul fan. I was disappointed when the Senators traded him to the Lightning.
Well, the Maple Leafs apparently were in on it, right? Like they were definitely a team that was in on this. And I know that I have seen a lot of people, come out and say, Nick Paul not quite what he used to be. He did have a diminished role last season where he didn't quite put up the numbers that he had the seasons prior. 2 years ago, 24 goals, 46 points. The year after that, 22 goals, 41 points. He's playing 16, 17 minutes a night there. And then this past season, just a little under 14 minutes, and he only had 15 points in 51 games. And that was playing fourth line minutes. I think if he ends up back in that third line role here with Toronto, he could get back to being that, 15 to 20 goal, 40 point guy. And I think that on top of being a high end penalty killer and matchup center, I really think that the Leafs are going to be happy. Leaf fans will be happy with this trade. He essentially will come in and do a lot of this similar things that Nick Roy brought to the team, right? And with him gone, you bring in someone else, and he's not making that much money. He's got a couple years left on that deal. I really did like that trade. When you look at the other signings that were made today, Jack Roslovic, 2 years, $4 million AAV. Colton Sissons, 2 years, $4.25 million AAV. Teddy Bluger, 2 years, $2.5 million. And then Zach McEwen, 2 years, 1.75. Where do you see these guys kind of fitting in? And do any of these ones tickle your fancy at all?
I mean, the Bluger one was a nice addition there, because I think so I was talking with someone, like, remind me that him and Dakota Joshua had a really good time together in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if your fourth line kind of looks like a Bluger, Sissons, and Joshua kind of trio.
I like even like a third line, like Joshua, Nick Paul, and Bluger, like as a third line to me, like that'd be a nasty, pesky, team or line to play against, right? You got big boy Nick Paul, you got Dakota Joshua when he's healthy, like he's a top forechecker, and Teddy Bluger, same thing, top forechecker who can skate, get in on the puck. So I think that line, like if they give that line a go, I do think that there's some legs there where that could be a pain in the ass type of line to play against for the opposition. It's interesting. The Jack Roslovic signing throws me for a bit of a loop, I will say. Like, doesn't it feel like they brought him in to chuck him next to Matthews? Like when you're putting together the lineup, like you're starting to kind of put together a lineup card, like it's as though it's either he's gonna go beside Matthews on the top line, or you're gonna end up in a situation where, kind of like Max Domi last season or Matthias Michelli, where it's like, well, if he doesn't work out there, or they want to try other pieces, where else does he fit in the lineup? That's kind of where I get a little bit, not that I'm concerned, because I think you could still probably have him on your fourth line and be a little bit of a, secondary, tertiary offensive player. But if your bottom six is going to be, your identity is going to be, hard to play against, well, Jack Roslovic doesn't really check that box. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fit him into the lineup. And if they put him in the top six, well, who's going to fall out that's currently there? So, I mean, Easton Cowan falls, out of the top six. Obviously, they're not going to like that's kind of the guy, I guess, at this point. McKenna, Cowan, one of those two, if they put Roslovic on Matthews' wing, is going to have to play on the third line at that point, I guess.
Yeah, and like Chaika brought up the fact that they also like that he can play up the middle, which I didn't really consider that part about him playing center. I don't think when you brought in the guys like Nick Paul, right, and Sissons, like those guys are viewed more as like centers. Like they have that, that's what they've done. Like, to me, you don't spend the money you spent on Roslovic to have him start as your third line center. To me, it's like they're gonna put him on Austin Matthews' wing.
Oh, see, I don't think they view him as their third line center, by the way.
No. I don't think so either. I think they like that. They like that ability. If they need somebody in the middle, they can put them there. But I think
but not at 3C, Dave.
No. You think at 2C?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's more likely we see him at 2C and they kick Tavares to the wing at some point, and kind of keep that top six, bottom six, separator from offense and defense. Because, like, again, Roslovic, not a very good defender. Like, he's all offense, no defense type of guy. So you're probably not going to want him in your bottom six at all. So if it's not, you get to a point where he's not working next to Austin, well, you're either going to have like a $4 million bench piece sitting up in the press box, or, maybe they try him at center. I think it's possible that they try him at 2C and eventually, kick Tavares out to the wing. I think it's possible that could have been part of it. Like the flexibility where he could be either top line winger or potentially be an option if Tavares, if it starts to fall off a bit at center and he can't keep up, at the center ice position. Maybe that's why Jack Roslovic got $4 million, in a couple of years on that deal, just to be kind of that flexible piece for him.
Yeah, and like the thing about Roslovic too, him being a right shot, like they really valued right shots. So that's another part of it. Yeah, I just kind of just really think it's going to be like a Roslovic, Matthews, McKenna, or Nyes.
So I do have something kind of
lined up there.
Pull it up. I've got something. I've got like jotted it down quickly. There still could be some tinkering here, but as of now, I feel like this would be like my lineup projection 1.0. And if we're gonna try Roslovic up in the top 6, I think you've got McKenna, Matthews, and Roslovic. Then you've got Nyes, Tavares, and Nylander, which does kick Cowan down to the third line with Nick Paul and Dakota Joshua, and then Bluger, Sissons, and Stevie Lorentz. Maybe it's Brandon Duhaime. I didn't have Duhaime on that original list. They also signed Brandon Duhaime too,
which I liked. When I looked at kind of some videos of him, he's going to be a guy that's going to be in and out of the lineup. But he is a guy that's going to bring your energy. He hits everything that moves, like penalty kill, not too bad defensively. I do think that that's a nice move. And I think, Lorentz, they're going to keep, like, I don't think Lorentz spot's really, I think he'll be kind of in and out of the lineup as well.
We could easily see Duhaime, get put in here too. Like, wouldn't shock me if that's, the lineup instead. And, Lorentz isn't on the opening night lineup. It wouldn't shock me if that's the way we saw it also. But yeah, like obviously that's a lot of new bodies though, right? Wise, you got Bobrovsky here, right? Radish, Andre, those are 2 new bodies. So you look at it, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like you've got 6 new bodies up front. 7, 8, 9. Like as of now, and this is only July 1st, but as of July 1st, the way that it kind of looks like when you're jotting down your lineup on the napkin, it kind of looks like there's going to be 9 new players in the lineup this season for the Maple Leafs. It's a lot of turnover. That is a lot of turnover. Yeah, it's a lot of turnover right there. Whether or not that it takes the team, a little bit to gain chemistry, whether maybe the chemistry comes right away. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I'll say this. I think that lineup that we just, that we saw there, the lineup that I got up on the screen again, to me, that does look more of a playoff worthy lineup than the one that finished the year here in Toronto.
Absolutely.
So,
and like you talk about guys that got kicked down the lineup, you need goals. You need guys who can produce offensively. Easy Cowan in the bottom 6 isn't the worst thing because you need someone that you can count on to produce. And like, I don't know if Roslovic in the bottom 6 would be able to do that because we talked about that. I think Easy Cowan's game lends himself to be able to do that because he is used to playing, in that role. He doesn't necessarily need to be a featured player to be a productive player. But I also wonder if more is to come because it did sound like there were other things potentially. Like we keep hearing the Morgan Riley name out there, and I still wonder if that changes a little bit of what could happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to make more moves like that, that is a trade that has to be done because the Maple Leafs, as of now, are out of cap space. Yeah, they spent all of their cap space. They had like 22 million in cap space going into the day. They're currently $127,000 over the cap as of now, according to Puckpedia. Now, That's what 21 active players. So like, yeah, like there's got to be some sort of shoe to drop. Like maybe Max Domi, they're gonna end up putting him on LTIR, and that'll create some cap space. I'm sure. Maybe Zach McEwen is a guy who they send down to the minors, and that'll create a little bit more cap space.
I think
for
McEwen's
them.
more of an AHL guy than an
Yeah, they still got to sign Emil Andre too, right? So they still got to get him signed to a contract, and he has arbitration rights too. So yeah, it does seem like there's got to be some money going out the door at some point here with the Maple Leafs. What that looks like, I guess we'll find out. That Brandon Duhaime deal, by the way, 3 years, $2.6 million. I don't know. I totally forgot to put him in my notes earlier, so I apologize for not talking about Brandon Duhaime a little bit earlier. But yeah, another guy who just adds to the mix in the bottom six. And I will say this. They've added a lot of wingers here, right? Like versatile players, we'll call them, whether it's center, winger, however it is, like Colton Sissons, Jack Roslovic, Nick Paul, Brandon Duhaime, Teddy Bluger, Zach McEwen, like all of these guys, and Steve Lorentz is kind of a leftover here. All of these guys, Dakota Joshua as well, playing the wing in the bottom six. They made a lot of additions to the bottom six. Also kind of speaks to maybe that they're not anticipating Max Domi returning next year. And we know that, the injury there to Domi, as of now, there's no timeline. They're not quite sure what, is going to transpire there. But it feels like with the amount of additions that they made and the type of additions that they made, it kind of seems like maybe they're getting ready for life without Domi, life after Domi. And that's why they loaded up and grabbed so many kind of wingers. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Just an observation I made today.
Yeah, I do think that they're running under the assumption that Domi isn't going to be around for good. Like, it's a back injury. Those take a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I also just think I don't think they're done. It kind of feels like more is to come.
What does it feel like, Dave? What does it feel like? What's more to come? What do you mean?
I just think Morgan Rielly. I still think that's a move that happens.
Mm-hmm. Is that a precursor to bringing in something else of like significance, or?
Well, the Zach Werenski stuff. I mean, we can talk about that, I think, tomorrow because it gets a little deeper. But that was something I had thought was going to happen, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like that kind of bizarre way for that all turned around. But I just feel like the Morgan Rielly situation lends itself to being him moved out. Maybe another guy comes in as a part of it, or maybe there's a little bit more shuffling going on. But I do think that that's a piece of this puzzle that's, I think Chaika is trying his best to get a solid deal. I mean, we just saw with the Darnell Nurse trade, right? What that does. If Darnell Nurse and his contract can get moved, I think you can expect a Morgan Rielly one.
Well, and if teams are willingly handing out $8.5 million contracts to like Jacob Trouba, Rielly at 7.5 doesn't seem that bad to me.
Nope.
I'll say that. So you look at the contract
with cap space, lots and lots of cap space.
Anaheim's the team for me. Like, we've talked about that as a good fit for a while, and now that
they only have 5 defensemen signed.
Yeah, like San Jose made their move by bringing in Trouba and Nurse. I doubt that they bring in Rielly as well.
Apparently, they were looking into it. They talked about it.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I do think that Anaheim still seems to be the team for me. I agree with you on that. I don't know what that looks like, but I do think that's something to watch because they have 5 defensemen signed.
Yeah,
they don't have.
They got to get. Yeah, they got to bring in some guys. A couple top free agents still available. Like, John Carlson's still out there. He's not really going to be in the Leafs market. Anthony Mantha's out there. I don't see them adding Mantha anymore based on what they've done. I don't think your boy Patrick Kane's coming to Toronto either. There's just not
like deal made it. I'm just like, okay, Patty Kane's not.
Yeah. Like they chose Roslovic over Patrick Kane, which interesting choice for them to make, I guess. But that does seem like, that was their prerogative. Defensively, Logan Stanley, Andrew Peak, Nick Blankenberg, still out there. Eli Tolvanen, Michael Bunting, Tarasenko is still out there if you're looking for some veterans. Yeah. So that's kind of where it sits right now. JVR out there if he wants to come back for one last showdown, if possible. I don't see a fit there. I'm just noting that he is technically out there and available on the free agent market. But yeah, a busy day one for the Maple Leafs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 signings, with the Brandon Duhaime signing coming in a little bit later in the day. So 6 signings, 2 trades, 8 transactions on day one of free agency. A busy one from John Chaika. Overall, though, Dave, really quickly, and we'll wrap this up this way. What would you grade Chaika's first free agent frenzy?
I go with a B-.
I also was going to go B-. Maybe even C+.
See, the signings had it at a C+ until the Nick Paul trade.
Yeah,
the Nick Paul trade made it.
Yeah.
I was like, is that really going to be it? And then the Nick Paul trade happened, and it's like, okay.
Well, tell you this. I like the Bobrovsky deal. I like Teddy Bluger's deal. Colton Sisson's a little more money than I wanted to give him. I thought maybe like 3 would be a good number, but 4, 2, whatever. I'll live with it. The Rossovic deal for me is a bit of a head. Like, I get it, right? Matthews boy, back-to-back 20-goal seasons. I can understand it, considering this team needs offense. Like, maybe he's that upgrade over Nicky Bobby, who they sent away. But, there
was that was a head scratcher. I thought Sissons was like, I understand the why he was brought in. I thought the money was too much, so that was a head scratcher.
Duhaime's a little much. I also had to go 2 years on every single one of these players. Like, every single player got 2 years, each and every one of them. So they're committed to this team for 2 seasons, like this exact team for 2 years, pretty much. It's kind of odd that each of these players got term. Like Duhaime needed 3 years. McEwen needed 2 years. I don't know. I suppose that that's what they decide to do. But I think a B- is appropriate. I think it's appropriate for sure. We'll see if it works, but I think there's more. I'm with you. I think there's more moves to come. We'll talk about the Riley stuff a little more tomorrow, because I do think there's some more meat on that bone after what we saw happen today with the Darnell Nurse trade and the lack of defensemen available on the market. He becomes a little bit more attractive around the NHL. So I think we can get into that discussion on tomorrow's show. Maybe there'll be another signing or trade or two to discuss as well. So that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive that daily dose of Maple Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.